Hey, what's going on, guys? We're having alongside Alyssa Orange, and it's game day. And Alyssa, my goodness, it's an early tip today. So as fans file in here, you're kind of like, wake up, get your coffee, whatever your caffeine choice is, get it going so you can get ready for the Dogs and Hogs. We saw this matchup in January, Alyssa.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I'm right there with you. I had some coffee. I woke up at like 9:30 today. I spent 16 hours at the ballpark yesterday, so I'm just happy to be inside. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm happy to be inside, but you're right. I mean, people are starting to filter in, and Arkansas, Mississippi State, this is a huge game, and Eric Musselman always talks about the crowd and how much they need the crowd to be kind of that, sixth man, if you could say, because they're going to need this win against Mississippi State if they want to continue to be in the conversation for the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely. First of all, props to you yesterday for the coverage of baseball. That is a long day at the ballpark, but we love baseball so much. We love basketball as well, and we're getting close. I mean, the stretch run, it just feels like it's right around the corner, and when you look at this Arkansas team, it's reeling right now, having lost 3 straight, and you look at what Arkansas really needs to do in a game like this against Mississippi State. Let's talk briefly about Mississippi State. The fact that Ben Howland comes in here with a team that's coming off a 25-point loss at Ole Miss. So Arkansas hungry, lost by 21 at Tennessee. Mississippi State hungry as well.
Yeah, and what Mississippi State has in their favor is they've already beat Arkansas this year. They got that done at the Hump in Starkville, and so what they're looking to do is exactly what they did the last time that these two teams played. What Arkansas needs to do is try to take Reggie Perry out of the equation just like Ole Miss did, really frustrate him and kind of distract him down low, and I think a lot of that comes to what Reggie Chaney is going to be able to do on the other end. Reggie versus Reggie, and I think Reggie Chaney is the one that needs to win this matchup.
Yeah, come to play today, Reggie Chaney, the sophomore for the Razorbacks. Let's hear from Eric Musselman on the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Coach, what were some of the pros and cons from the first matchup with Mississippi State that you can use in this game?
Oh boy, I have a bunch of cons that I can certainly list for you. I mean, I don't know how much time you have, or Reggie Perry. We can start with Perry's 15 free throws attempted. His 26 points and 13 rebounds is a concern. Mississippi State taking 31 free throws attempted, a concern. Mississippi State being plus 10 on the glass, a concern. Mississippi State having 11 offensive rebounds, a concern. Mississippi State having 4 players in double digits, a concern. Is that enough?
Reggie Perry, 14 out of 15 free throws last time. I know a lot of this is because he's a monster inside, but is there a way to defend him without putting him on the line that much, or how do you maybe cut down on that?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I did today, Bob, is I wanted to see all the fouls that we committed on him and their entire team. And I polled our staff, and said, how do you think he got fouled? Do you think it was us switching on the pick and roll? Do you think it was straight post-ups? The fouls we committed were our 4 and 5 men fouling him on non-scoring type plays. So we got to get better. We got to get better at not fouling people when they're not in scoring area. So, if he gets off to a great start and we're guarding him with the same people as last time, then maybe Jamario goes in. I don't know. Don't say it's going to happen, but, maybe Ethan gets more minutes on him. Scylla actually did a really good job on him, although you would think from a height standpoint, but Scylla got underneath him instead of playing upright. And I thought that underneath defense of kind of getting underneath the ball and I thought that was probably as effective as anybody. But look, he's going to score on Saturday. Let everybody know right now, like Reggie Perry is going to score. It's a matter of, and he's going to rebound. So it's a matter of how much can we get that down.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the defensive rebounding, and he talked about this as well at his his pregame press conference, Eric Musselman. That is, Adrio Bailey, one of those guys in particular, he's got a defensive rebound. You look at Adrio, he's a 6'6" player who's been really vital for this team all season. But, obviously Adrio had a couple threes against Tennessee. You're like, okay, this guy percentage-wise has done pretty well from behind the arc, but what do they really need from Adrio as a senior and a leader for this team? They need him to defensive rebound, and you just need people to somehow disrupt Reggie Perry. And the bottom line is, Alyssa, in Starkville, the hump, it was just too easy for Perry against those post guys for Arkansas, really anybody in general for Arkansas.
Yeah, he really had a field day and just kind of went off on the team that he had previously committed to, and everyone's tired of that storyline. But again, you have to take that into consideration, I think, a little bit when it comes to motivation and the way that guys play. And we knew that Reggie Chaney was going to be motivated to play Arkansas. What Arkansas really needs to do, as you mentioned, I like Adrio Bailey defensively. Yes, play very good defense, but I need to see Adrio Bailey continue to score on the offensive side, and that's really the question mark. This team can play defense. They lead the SEC in steals. What they need to be able to do is turn that into offensive points on the other side. That's not what they did against Tennessee, and it's really been a struggle really since Isaiah Joe has gone out, because Mason Jones able to have the kind of performances that he's been able to, but it hasn't equaled wins down the stretch in these last 3 games. With him struggling right now, no Isaiah Joe, Jimmy Witt kind of off his mark. Also, Adrio Bailey, Desi Sills, guys like Reggie Chaney need to step up offensively, because you can play great defense, but you're not beating teams if you can't score more points than them, obviously.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about Reggie Chaney, because he had a double-double against Mizzou. That was this past Saturday. And more, when you look at Chaney, as he tries to develop his game, we talk about his efficiency as an offensive rebounder, but again, you allude to defensive rebounding, what you need from him, and you need him to get more involved in, whether it's a set play or not, feeding off of a guy like maybe it's Jalen Harris, where you can get some alley-oops off some pick-and-roll plays. Can you get some action there? But again, it's got to be up here. It's got to be right there in the brain, where you're becoming more and more of a smart and intelligent player.
Yeah,
because that's the issue.
It's that transition offense, too. That's where they're so good, and obviously you cost so many steals. Obviously be able to turn those into points on the other end. And Reggie Chaney has done a lot in terms of playing more, scoring more in these last couple of games, but this is where Reggie Chaney really struggles, and it's foul trouble, Drew. The last 5 games, 4 fouls, 5 fouls, 4 fouls, 5 fouls, 4 fouls, and so obviously there's a trend here. This guy gets into foul trouble. Reggie Chaney cannot foul out of this game if Arkansas wants to be successful, and he can't get into foul trouble early, because that is going to force Eric Musselman to have to put him on the bench, and a Reggie Chaney on the bench is not a recipe for success against Mississippi State.
Well, it's the soft fouls, too. You know, it doesn't matter. A foul's a foul. I mean, the bottom line is, if you foul that far away from the opponent's offensive end, you're probably going to be sitting on the bench soon, and you're going to miss a lot of minutes of the game. And whether that's Desi Sills as a guard for Arkansas, Reggie Chaney as a forward for Arkansas, they have to clean that up. They just got to be smarter, because bottom line is, this team has been fouling way too much lately, and when you don't have a guy like Isaiah Joe, who is in this lineup, and you knew that he was ruled out indefinitely prior to the Auburn game, you see how much that hurts this team, not only just from a standpoint of what does your offense look like and where is your offense coming from collectively, but it also hurts because Isaiah Joe does not foul in a high volume.
Yeah, and that's what they're missing out on, and the way that we've seen these games is, you know that they're going to foul. That's kind of been the trend right now. That whistle's getting blown a lot more than usual, and you just kind of have to suck it up and figure out a way to be successful when you know that fouls are going to get called more than they have in the past. What I really liked against the Tennessee game was Ethan Henderson and his rebounding ability. I thought that when he was in there, he really stood out in that rebound category, and I appreciated that. I think that, yeah, as Coach Musselman alluded to, they might be using Ethan Henderson more. And then, shoot, why not? You have to get a win. Just put Jamario Bell's huge defensive end body on Reggie Chaney and just see what happens. Just get him to stand there and defend Reggie Chaney, and you might be successful there also. Wow. You're just throwing the kitchen sink at him at this point.
He's a physical specimen, that's right. That guy is flat out
He's
huge.
a defensive end. Woo. I want to see Reggie Perry go up against a defensive end.
Yeah.
And Jamario Bell knows how to play basketball. Yeah. Let's see what happens.
Just get in his grill, bug him a little
Why
bit,
not?
you know?
Yeah.
You know, you look at the guard play, and you look at Mason Jones being a guy who can stretch it and be a 4 guy for you. But, again, it's up here with him. Because right now, without Isaiah Joe, teams are able to defend, and it's easier against Mason Jones. So now he's having to read that better. And Mason Jones had a long conversation with Eric Musselman prior to that last game. All this talk about, was he in trouble? Was he going to get suspended? Well, what happened? Mason Jones came off the bench, and what we were told in the pregame and that was prior to Tennessee, is that they wanted more punch off the bench. Well, they got 9 points from Mason Jones off the bench. Here's the bottom line. 1 of 10 shooting for Mason Jones. That's not Mason Jones, a guy who's in the conversation, obviously, to be a first-team All-SEC selection this season.
Yeah, and Mason Jones is in a funk right now, and you got to give him some confidence to get out of it. And I think a lot of that funk comes with some frustration that he feels like he's having to carry this team on his back all by himself. And Eric Musselman is holding him to a very high standard. Not that that isn't unacceptable and that he should be, but you can't get frustrated with your top player right now and scream at him constantly and think that he's going to be able to perform, and he's not going to be able to get into his head, because Mason is an emotional player. Everybody knows that Mason's an emotional player, and sometimes those things affect him, and I think we've seen that effect recently in the way that he isn't performing on the basketball court.
Sharing is caring, as they like to say, and this team needs more assists.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, you saw it, Alyssa, on Rocky Top. 17 assists in that game for Tennessee, just 6 for Arkansas. So Eric Musselman, he always has that little thing where he's kind of like, it's pretty obvious. You got to be better, and you got to be more unselfish in that regard of being a better basketball team, and they just didn't do it at Tennessee in a lot of facets, and that's why that was the most lopsided loss of the season for Arkansas.
Well, you got to take care of the basketball. Jalen Harris trying to force too much, turning them into turnovers for Tennessee, and his turnover to assist ratio was down last year and at the beginning of this year, and I think he's starting to force a little too much, getting things a little bit out of control. But a lot of those assists come with moving the basketball, and they didn't do a lot of that. It was a very stagnant offense against Tennessee, so I want to see that ball movement and spacing that we've seen from this team earlier in the year.
All right, final take here. What do you think it's going to take collectively against Mississippi State, knowing that this is a group that has a lot of size? Because let's look at matchups, no matter who starts, because, when you look at Mississippi State, I'll just go down a list. I mean, the guys that they started against Ole Miss, you got Reggie Perry, 6'10". You got Abdul Adu, he's 6'11". And then you look at the three-guard set. These guys are big, Alyssa. I mean, you look at it. Robert Woodard, I've talked about him. He's 6'7". You look at DJ Stewart, Nick Weatherspoon. These are really good guards. DJ Stewart was a guy we didn't talk a lot about in January prior to the game against Mississippi State, a game won by 7 by Mississippi State. And what happened in that game? DJ Stewart had 14 points, so a lot to think about when you look at the size differential. But again, that's what Arkansas has been up against all season.
Yeah, well, their shooting just has to be better. Arkansas has got to be able to hit a basket, and I know that sounds really elementary, and, well, duh, it's basketball.
Right.
You have to score, and I understand that, but they have just not been taking very good shots. They have to be smarter with their shot selection. They have to be able to, again, move the basketball, space out the defense, drive to the basket. It has to be a record performance, in my opinion, from Reggie Perry to be able to win this game.
All right, 31% shooting at Tennessee, as you said, that's not going to get it done.
No.
So, again, it sounds general, but you got to make shots, and you got to be a lot more efficient in that area. And on this floor against Auburn, you saw them take, at the time, the 11th-ranked team in the nation to overtime, Alyssa. So you go through back-to-back OT games, and then you lose the game by 21 against Tennessee. It's the grind of the season. And I'll slip in one final take here. I know I said the last one was going to be the final take, but forgive me for that. Give me your take on that based on the fact that it is such a grind. Guys get sick. Guys get tired. You're going through school. I mean, look, this is just a point in the season where you look at Arkansas, they're 16-8, 4-7 in the league. So let's not freak out and say it's over. They're done. Like, they're not going to go to the NCAA tournament. There still obviously is that opportunity to go to the big dance. And so even though they're sitting at 4-7 in the league play and it doesn't get any easier against Mississippi State, you got to feel good that maybe this team will regroup because they have that mentality. The chemistry still seems pretty good.
Yeah, and we've seen that. We've seen the resiliency of this team before. We've seen how well they play together. We've seen how they've never given up and they're never out of a game. I think just this stretch with Isaiah Joe has kind of maybe mentally messed with this team. But if they can get back to being that resilient, grind it out, never going to give up Arkansas team that we saw against LSU, against Ole Miss, against, these games in the past, Indiana, where they're coming back from 11 and they're winning these games. That's the Arkansas team that's going to be able to win down the stretch and continue to be in the field of 64.
Yep. All right, Arkansas, Mississippi State coming up at noon. And again, the Razorbacks, a team coming off that loss on Rocky Top to the Tennessee Volunteers. And I'm just glad Santiago Vescovi is not on Mississippi State because he had 20 points, 8 assists, very intelligent player. So that's my point here, just to recap. Yeah, you can't foul as much. Bottom line, you got to hold your own. as far as the rebounding, my take is you just got to be a lot more intelligent as a basketball team, and that's very easily said, but you got to shore things up. Maybe they put in a few more set plays prior to this game. I don't know. We'll see. But you're playing in this stretch without Isaiah Joe. A lot of people think that maybe you're being counted out at this point, so I want to see how they respond today. Arkansas, Mississippi State.